taking a peek at the infotainment system inside of the Volvo V60. This is the mild hybrid version. There is a plug-in hybrid version as well, but the functionality is going to be exactly the same. So let's dive in and I'll show you everything that you need to know. First thing, along the top left-hand side, you've got your current connection level. There's this little tab along the top that you can swipe down in order to hop into your profiles. So very useful if you've got multiple people driving the vehicle, so you can add in additional profiles and you can lock it out to a pattern or a pin, which I'll show you as we hop into the settings. But the benefit here is that it's going to remember the phones that you've connected if you've searched for previous addresses, all of your presets and things like that. So if multiple people are driving the vehicle, you definitely want to set up additional profiles. And then you've also got any sort of notifications that were available. Along the top, it's your current driver profile with the current time. And then you've got a little tray display here. You can hop in to get to an icon view instead. So what I want you to think of these ones as more like a quick launch, because you can get here to get to all of the additional apps that are kind of line by line. But as we hop into this home page instead, you can swipe across to get to those same apps if you'd like to, see additional options that are available. And then if you swipe the opposite way of whatever the active application is, you'll get some additional options. So for maps, you'd be able to look at things. For radio, you can see there we can hop in, swipe across to save a station, play, pause, whatever the case may be. Go to other options there. If your phone was connected, you have additional options. Pushing back home, or going to this option, I should say, brings you into your little icon tray where you've got the flexibility of doing a press and hold if you wanted to adjust these icons out a little bit. So if you wanted to customize it and make it your own, you've got the flexibility to do it. So you can drag and drop any of these options to any other location. And then there are a series of different options, so you may not have some of these apps installed on your device. As a default, it's just going to be Google Maps, but you may not have things like your messages, Google Assistant. You may not have Waze installed there as well. So there are some apps that you can add in through the Play Store, which I'll show you in just a minute as we navigate through. Along the very bottom here, you can also press to get to your 360 camera, where you've got your 360 view. You can hop in to see what's going on in front of you, side by side, in behind you, etc. You could disable the parking sensor, so that beeping that you get as you get closer to obstacles. You can turn off the auto brake, so as you're backing up, if there's an obstacle behind you, it's going to slam on its brakes for you. And then you can hit this icon in order to get to some other options. So you've got your wheel guidelines. Do you want those ones showing up? So as you go to rotate the wheel, those are the guidelines there, and it's the volume of the beeping. You've got the option for heated and ventilated first row seats. So if those options were available for you, they would show up. You've also got a heated steering wheel, and you can adjust out what's going on along the passenger side here too. Then there's a little tab along your seat you can push in order to be able to turn on massage chair seats. These are available optionally inside of the V60, and you can use that same switch to jump between different options. So if you wanted to adjust out your leg cushion to make it a little bit more comfortable for the drive, you could. You'd also have the flexibility of adjusting your lumbar support. You can adjust the bolsters on the seat, so if you wanted to hug you a little bit more, you've got that flexibility. And there are a series of different massages that are available inside of the ride as well. And they're subtle, but they're really nice at the same time. Now, one nice thing is that after you have the seat set up the way that you'd like to, so you've gone through those additional options, adjusting your seat along the side here, ideally the way that you'd like it, set up your side view mirrors. You could then use the memory buttons in order for it to remember your profile. So you're just going to hit M, 1 or 2. So if there are multiple people driving, you'd be able to have it remember what your seat is like. So there are 2 different memory options for both the driver and for the passenger side. From there, you've got your climate control settings. So you've got your max AC, your windshield defrosters, things like that. Do you want heat going to windshield face feet? Some sort of Frankenstein combination of the above. You can adjust your fan speed. You can adjust the climate here as well. If the passenger is different from the driver, you can link them up from there. You can hit this in order to get to some additional options. So you could have your driver's seat come on automatically, passenger seat, heated seats coming on, etc. when you start the vehicle up. Do you want those starting, yay or nay? And then actually there are some other useful ones here. There's rear available as well. So if you wanted to control the rear climate, you'd have the flexibility to be able to do it. And then there are air purification options available here too. And then a series of different general settings. There are a lot of different things, but I'll touch on that one last. So let's go line by line and I'll show you everything you need to know. Starting off, Google Maps is going to be the default because this is an Android device, so Google will be the option there. You've got the option of searching for addresses. So you can search for latitude first, longitude second if you'd like to. Point of interest icons are available there too. And you could swipe across, get to any of these options, and then you can start or you can add a stop in. You can look at the different routes available too. So if there are different ways you can get to your end destination, you can avoid certain things on the route. So if you wanted to avoid highways, toll roads, ferries, you'd have that flexibility as well. And then the route's actively going. You can hit here in order to see your end destination as well. So again, looking at those different route options, you can search for something else. So let's say if you wanted to stop at a gas station first, you've got the flexibility to do it. So all you're going to do is find a random station. There we go. If your phone was hooked up, you'd be able to call them, and then you could add in a stop. And there we go. You can see we've got that other location added in, so we're just going to confirm, and you're set to go. And one nice thing is that, yeah, you've got all of the information that you need here, but inside of the cluster screen, you've also got your turn-by-turn directions showing up inside of that screen as well. There's a button that you can push here to get to either a turn-by-turn direction or full map and cluster, but I love that. And then, look at that. There's also the option for a full head-up display inside of the ride. And if you've got a head-up display, you'll get your turn-by-turn directions right there. Very useful. You can exit out if you wanted to either remove the next stop or fully exit navigation instead, so that's going to cancel the route. And you've got the places that we've searched for. You can hit the gear icon here if you wanted to show your satellite view instead, so if you prefer that terrain view. You can look at global route options for avoiding highways, toll roads, and ferries, and offline maps. Benefit of the offline maps is that if you're going somewhere where you're not going to have data connection, you can download maps right to the vehicle, and then it would just be a slower GPS route instead. From there, you can mute out notifications. So do you want to get full alerts? So as you come to an upcoming turn, it's going to tell you, give you a beep. You're going to get nothing or just a beep. You can change your heading there as well. So do you want that north up view, etc.? Different perspective views. And then there's this little guy along the top right. And that's going to give you the flexibility of signing into your Google account. And the big benefit there is that if you've been using your phone to search for addresses, you'd then be able to pull up all of the previously searched for addresses that you've looked for on your phone. It's actually really neat. You've got full pinch to zoom capabilities, zoom in and out this way, recenter it back on you, and back home. You've also got Waze available here too, and Waze is definitely my favorite app when I'm driving. I typically use it off of Apple CarPlay, but it's nice that you've got the flexibility of downloading the app right to the device instead. You have to log into the Play Store to do that. You've got your Google Assistant there, and that's going to let you do things like change songs, radio stations, navigate using your voice, adjust the climate using your voice and the fan speed. You can also do a button push on the steering wheel to do it that way instead, or just say, "Hey Google," in order to launch into your assistant that way. You've got radio, and as a default, you're just going to have radio, Bluetooth, Sirius, and then YouTube on there as well. So these other options were added in afterwards through the Play Store. But on your radio, you've got every station that's available based off of your geographic area. If you're new to an area, you can easily save in stations. So you see there how there's a star next to these. So if you want to, you can hit the star icon if you wanted to remember all of your favorite stations. So if you've got stations that you tend to listen to the most, you can navigate through. Some good ones here that I'm highlighting as we go. And then once you've saved all of the stations that you like, all you're going to do, you can hit the favorites icon there and see them all. You could unstar them in order to remove it as a favorite. You can hit the right seek button along the steering wheel as well to change between all of your song stations, etc. You can hit up here if you wanted to save. You could change between different stations that way.
Good, we can give you
play pause that way as well. Then you've got the volume rocker down the middle too. So when you're listening to regular radio, you go to play pause. It's not going to actually pause the radio station. It essentially just acts as a mute instead. And then down from there. You've got your Bluetooth media player, so if your phone is connected, that would show up as an available option. There's SiriusXM available as well. So you've got all of your channels, same idea. You can star them in if you wanted to save them as a preset. You can look at your different favorited stations, look at category views. So if you wanted to listen to pop, rock, etc., you've got that available. Pushing up gets you to the album artwork. You can search for a station, look at all of your additional settings. So if you wanted to set up SiriusXM, that's how you're going to do it. And back home. You don't have AM radio inside of the vehicle, but you do have things like adding in Spotify. YouTube is available here as well, and it's not just YouTube music. It's full YouTube video playback that you can watch as you are parked. And it's strictly when you're parked. So if you want to, you can search. Oh, helps if I spell things right. Oh, just realized that I did not spell that right, but benefits of YouTube there. But there are some really good videos on the channel here for the Volvo lineup and for a number of other manufacturers. So I'll link down to the description of this video for some other walkthroughs, like some key fob tricks that you can do utilizing the steering wheel cluster and things like that as well. But you can watch full videos right on this device, which is amazing. Back home, you've got Car Fireplace, which is an app that you're going to download through the Play Store, and Spotify and a few others. The next up is going to be adding in a phone. So you can see there, no phones are currently connected. So we're going to pair a new device, and we're looking for Volvo V60cc on your device. So all you're going to do is pull up your phone's Bluetooth, and we're looking for, here we go, V60cc to pop up. And we're going to connect there. Pin numbers match up, so let's pair and pair. And then from here, you'd be able to pair for phone calls or for media as well. So you could kind of do a little bit of a mix and match. And then on your phone, it's asking, do you want to allow contacts and favorites to sync up? This is not my car, so I'm going to say no to that one. And we are connected over Bluetooth right now. We're just going to cancel there and continue, and okay. And we are fully connected. So if you were to hop out, and let's hop into phone now. So you can see the phone is connected. You've got your favorites, recent contacts, keypad. If multiple phones were connected, you could swap, or you could hit this option to change out the start screen. So when you first launch into your phone here, it's which one of these options do you want it to default to? But you could start dialing in this way if you want to, and then button push in order to get back home. Then you do have the option for Apple CarPlay inside of the ride, and you do have to be connected over USB in order to make it happen. Strictly going to be USB Type-C. So all you're going to do is plug yourself in down the center stack there, and opposite end of the cable, just plugging ourselves into the phone. There we go. Now, if you're running into CarPlay connectivity issues, like it's not actually working for you, check down in the description of this video. I've put together some pretty comprehensive videos explaining how to fix CarPlay if you're running into any issues. But on the phone, it's saying, do you want to allow CarPlay while the phone is locked? Yes, we want to allow that. Otherwise, when the phone is locked, CarPlay just wouldn't work. But you can see we're fully connected to CarPlay. You can hit this icon in order to get to your little home screen. Back to this icon view, you can swipe across either way as well. Then this is essentially the home screen. So you've got your current map, a search bar, and then whichever audio application you're listening to. Along the bottom, you can see your icon view or the home screen, your current time, which map was open last, which audio application was open last, which miscellaneous application is open last, and then your connection level. You do have Apple Maps, Google Maps, and Waze available inside of Apple CarPlay. I personally use Waze though, like I was mentioning, so I typically use Waze on CarPlay. And the big reason why is because as you start to drive, if people have seen that cops are pulling people over, if there are accidents on the highway, construction, things like that, people are good at marking off the map, giving you a heads up, and you can mark things off yourself. So if you see a cop pulling people over, there are hazards, block lanes, and things like that, you've got that flexibility. So that's my go-to. You've got YouTube Music, Live One's a radio app, Hoopla's a library app, podcasts are available there as well. So there are a lot of different options available here, including the flexibility of customizing. So if you wanted to change out your wallpaper, you could change out the appearance and things like that. It's kind of neat. Then when you're connected to CarPlay, if you do a long button push and hold on the steering wheel, that's going to start up your Siri assistant. If you do a short button push, that's going to launch into the assistant for the vehicle. So long button push and hold is for your Siri assistant, short is for the vehicle assistant instead. You can hop back home and then easily get back into CarPlay that way. And then on your phone, if you jump into your settings, and then general, and then CarPlay, find your vehicle, you can customize. So if you don't like the look of the layout of the icons, let's say if you prefer to use Waze and you want it at the top, along with your podcasts, all you're going to do is just grab the little hamburger icon, and that's going to let you slide things around into any position. Anything with a minus next to it, you can remove it. So if you're not going to listen to certain apps or use certain apps, you can remove them from the screen. It saves them in at the bottom of your phone though, so you could add them back in if you wanted to. And if you've played around with the layout too much, not crazy about what you've done, hit reset, and that just brings you back to the factory default layout there instead. Straightforward. And then since we're a USB connection, in order to disconnect from CarPlay, all you're going to do is unplug there and CarPlay is disconnected. Hopping back into your phone just reconnects you over Bluetooth, and you can swap out in order to disconnect the phone again from there. But that's how you set up iPhone devices inside of the V60. Setting up Android devices is the exact same process. So if you didn't have this screen pulled up, all you're gonna do, hop into your phone, swap devices, and you're just going to pair a new device. And what we're doing is turning our Bluetooth on and we're waiting for our phone to show up. Do you want to pair it for your phone or for media? Either or, just gonna hit next for both. And it'll take a second there. Pin numbers match up, so we'll hit OK. There we go. Do I want to allow access to my contacts and messages? This is not my car, so I'm saying no to that one. And we're fully connected to the Galaxy now. So if we hop back home, hop into the phone, you can see there, I'm now connected to the Galaxy. I can hit this in order to change my contact order, swap phones out, so if I wanted to be connected to the iPhone instead. Now, one thing, this is an Android device. This is an Android device, but the Volvo unfortunately does not support Android Auto. So that's one downside to the Volvo lineup, but you can get the majority of apps that you'd use anyways through the Play Store. There are obviously going to be some limitations. That's one thing that I would like to see changed, is to have Android Auto support, but you can at least hook your phone up over Bluetooth if you wanted to make phone calls. And then one thing, you've got a few options here. So let's say if you wanted to have one phone connected for phone calls, but one phone connected for media, you can do that. So you can be hooked up to Apple CarPlay, but not to Apple CarPlay and, well, Android Auto is not available, but for your phones here, you can do a mix and match here. So you can have these connected in any way that you'd like. You can hit edit devices as well if you wanted to scrap or forget devices. So it's just a matter of hitting the little garbage icon and back. No phones are connected, but it's that easy setting up Android and iPhone devices inside of the V60. Hopping back home, you've got messages. If your phone is connected there, there's an owner's manual. So if this video didn't help out, or if you're getting some weird messages inside of the cluster screen, like you're not sure what certain symbols mean, you can look through and see all of these different options. A lot of different options there too. And then you've got the Play Store. So the Play Store is where you're gonna go if you wanted to be able to download apps. And all you have to do is sign in. It's straightforward to do. So you're gonna have a QR code pop up here in a second. You're just gonna scan it on your phone, and then you're just gonna follow through in order to log into your account. And it'll take a second here. And yes, I wanna sign in. Look at that. Fully signed in right now. And just gonna hit done. And you can now download different apps to the device. So there are already a series of different apps that are here, but hopping into the Play Store, if you wanted to download games and other things like that, you'd have the flexibility to be able to do it. So if you wanted to watch movies and TV and things like that while you're parked, you wanted to play games, you'd have the flexibility to do it. There aren't a ton of different games that are available on the device, but there are quite a few useful ones that are available here though too. And then just back home from there. So if you wanted to customize the screen a little bit, you've got the flexibility. There is actually one app that I would recommend if you wanted to listen to USB audio, and that's going to be Audio Wagon. So this one, really great app. I always recommend that's one that you go to. So if you wanted to play USB audio inside of your device, you want to make sure you add Audio Wagon to it as well. But outside of that, Waze is a good one. YouTube will be there automatically if you listen to Spotify, things like that. But you can customize this if you'd like to. And from here, next up is going to be all of the settings. And there are so many different settings that are available. So starting off with our driving assistance, you've got off-road mode that's available here. And off-road mode's just going to give you better traction handling overall. ProPilot Assist is available here too. So you've got the adaptive cruise control system, and that adaptive cruise essentially is going to be a set it and forget it cruise. So you set it at 100 kilometers an hour, car in front of you slows down, yours is going to brake. If they change lanes, pick up speed, it's going to pick you back up to your set speed. But when you've got the adaptive cruise control system going, you can also hit the little icon here. So you're going to hit this little guy. We can see that there's a little message at the very bottom of the cluster screen there, and that's going to be a little steering wheel with a hand on it. So what that means is when that mode is enabled, if the vehicle recognizes the lane markings, it's going to keep you perfectly balanced in your lane. Even if you lose focus for a second, your hand's off the wheel, it's good for about 10 to 12 seconds or so. If you don't have the ProPilot Assist system turned on, it's just going to be the adaptive cruise control system instead. The lane keeping aid, if you start to veer over into another lane without signaling, it's going to nudge you back into your lane. There's a little message, or a little icon I should say, on the very top of the cluster screen there, and that's going to be for your lane keeping system. So if that one was toggled on or off, I recommend just for general safety though, keeping it on. There's your road sign speed information. So again, whether or not that one shows up, and that's going to show up inside of the cluster screen. Steering wheel, do you want it to be firm versus more loosey-goosey? Sound options are available here too. So do you want a studio sound, a stage, or more of a room, so ambiance? Do you want it focused on the driver, people in the back seat, people in the front seat, etc.? It's actually really neat. And then you've got the flexibility of adjusting out your treble mid-range bass. This is a terrible setup. You don't want something like that. What I've found in Volvo vehicles so far is that the treble down a few points, the bass cranked a few points, and the woofer up a point gives good audio, in my opinion. But what I recommend here is listen to your favorite song and then play with these settings until you hear something that works beautifully for your ears. Different connectivity options are available, so you could adjust your Bluetooth options there. You could disable vehicle SIM data, connect to a Wi-Fi network at home. Let's see some additional controls, including the flexibility of being able to fold down your headrests. So what you're going to do, it's such a random little thing. And then there's also the wiper service position. So with that one enabled, it's going to lock the wipers into an up position. So if you need to change the wipers out yourself, you've got the flexibility to be able to do it. You can have your exterior mirrors auto tilt when they're in reverse as well. So if you have that setting enabled, you shift yourself into reverse, the mirrors are going to automatically tilt. I know some people aren't crazy about that one. I'm one of the ones that aren't crazy about it, so you can disable it. Do you want your mirrors to automatically fold in when you lock the door? Do you want your mirrors to automatically dim? So if there's a donkey in behind you flashing their high beams, it's going to show up a little bit darker in your side view mirrors along with your rear view, which is kind of neat. Rear seat reminder, with that one turned on, when you go to turn the vehicle off, it's going to remind you to check the back seat just in case you've forgotten somebody back there. Do you want to get feedback when you go to lock the vehicle? When you go to unlock the doors, do all doors become unlocked, or is it strictly the driver's door? And then there's options for your trip displays. So you've got 3 different options available for the display. So manual mode versus auto mode versus none. So with none, that means that inside of the cluster screen, nothing's going to show up, versus auto versus your trip manual counter instead. You can reset your manual counter. There's a button on the tip of the left stick. If you push and hold that, that's going to let you reset. If you hit this little button in the middle of the steering wheel, that's going to let you jump into your trip counter. So you can see your trip manual counter. So that's essentially your trip 1. There's also the option for a head-up display inside of the ride. And the head-up display is not standard, but you can toggle the display off if you want to. You can adjust things out too. You're adjusting using the buttons here on the steering wheel as you go to adjust, but you can move it up or down. You can adjust the brightness as well. I always recommend maximum brightness. And the big reason why is because if you're wearing polarized sunglasses, so it's tricky to see them with polarized sunglasses on, you can still see it though. So that's why I recommend the maximum brightness setting there instead. And then you can also rotate the head-up display too. So if you have a tendency to sit one way or the other on the seat, you can adjust that out yourself. Let's see, you can adjust out the interior brightness. Do you want a welcome light when you first walk up to the vehicle as well? Then you can adjust out things on your profile. So you can edit the existing owner's name. You can say whether or not there's a connected key. You can also do a screen lock, so whether that's a pattern or a pin. So again, if you've got all of your previously searched for addresses, all of your contacts and things like that that have been synced up to the vehicle, you can lock it out so people can't just look through. There's the option for a care key as well. So it's your secondary key, you're lending it out to friends, whatever the case may be. Through your care key, you'd also have the flexibility of being able to limit the speed out so people can't go past a certain speed. There's basic privacy information, so you can choose to share your location data, basic privacy settings. There's an ad manager here. I personally have never seen an ad inside of any Volvo vehicle, but it still is there, so that's something you should be aware of. And that's the basics there, nothing overly exciting. Same thing, basic Google information there, ad manager, password assistant, etc. And then you've got a series of system info. So if you wanted to adjust out your language, you've got the flexibility to do it. And there are so many different languages that are available. It's one of the benefits of it being a Google device. You've got so many options here. You can adjust the date and time. And you'll notice that a few of these things are grayed out, and that's because we're in the auto mode. So if you deselect that, you can then manually select the date or the time if you'd like to. I always just go auto there. And then the time zone. The only time you want to go manual for the time zone is if you straddle a time zone and you're constantly flipping from one time zone to the other. You could manually set whatever time zone that you'd like to instead, and then just lock it in. And then do you want to use the military time instead? So 12 versus 24-hour mode. Measurement units is another useful one. So you've got either metric or imperial, and that's going to change up what's going on inside of the cluster screen to a degree. So you could change out your basic distance units along the very bottom, and then you could also adjust out whether the speed is in kilometers or miles instead. And that's just one of the benefits of having a fully digital cluster screen. You can also adjust out your temperature along the bottom. So do you want that being in Celsius or Fahrenheit? And back. Basic security information, software updates, if they were available, you'd be able to check to see if updates are available. Because this is an Android device, if you're downloading apps to the device, you can see what different options are available there. And then there are some reset options. So you could reset Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, etc. So if that's giving you options, if you're selling your vehicle, you could do a full factory reboot as well. And then there are a series of different buttons under the screen, but there are two that are important. So this one here, as I mentioned, so that brings you back to this little kind of like home screen instead. But if you wanted to be able to wipe the screen down, because let's say if it's getting a little bit too messy, too greasy, whatever the case may be, you press and hold for a few seconds in order to enter screen cleaning mode. You can just wipe the screen down without accidentally fiddling with buttons. Button push and hold again for a few seconds in order to be able to bring the screen to life again. Now, if you're ever running into any issues with your phone, if your maps aren't working properly, or if you're just running into issues, it's slow, laggy, whatever the case may be, you can also do a full factory reboot. In order to do the reboot, all you're going to do is push and hold this button for about 15 to 20 seconds or so. So it's going to go into this mode, just keep on pushing and holding. And after, again, about 20 seconds, eventually the screen's just going to go off. And there we go. You can see there, it's reset both the cluster screen and the infotainment system. So that's where you're going to go, and that's what you're going to do if you're running into any issues with the screen. So like I said, CarPlay is giving you issues, it's not connecting properly, whatever the case may be. You just do a very long push and hold on that button along the very middle in order to soft reboot the screen, because you can do the hard reset that I showed you earlier, or you could just do the soft reboot this way. And then while this is loading up, there are some buttons along the very bottom of the screen as well. So you've got your four-way blinkers, basics for your climate control. So you've got your heated windshield defroster, rear defroster, change between songs. There's a volume rocker, and then you can play and pause as well. And you can see there, we've cycled through the reboot screen. So any issues that you may be having or might have been having should now be solved. So I know that's a lot of information, but that's everything you need to know about the infotainment system inside of the Volvo V60.